So anyway, I think we can get started. It's 5 o'clock, and I would like to welcome the members of the Bitcoin Trend and Forecast and members of Wright's Crypto Astrology Patreon group and report owners to a really special afternoon of interaction between Marius Landman and Wright. Both who are absolute professionals in their field. Before we get started though, I think if we could, Marius and if you could share a little bit about your journey in cryptos, and if we could start with share, if you could give us a little bit of your background and how you came to cryptos, and then Marius will turn it over to you, and then if you could talk a little bit about your journey as well.
Sure
Aura?
thing. Yeah, of course. So first of all, I just want to thank everyone for being here. I just want you guys to know that I'm really excited to be talking to you all, and that, my own group as well as Marius's group. And, I'll do my best to make sure that it's worth your time, because you could all be watching Netflix, I think, right now instead, if you wanted to be. But I'm really glad to be here. And so the first thing for me, how I got into crypto, I actually heard about it first in 2011. I had heard something from Roger Ver, right? And I got talked out of it. I wanted to buy into it, and I got talked out of it because I didn't know how, right? I couldn't do it technologically. I didn't know how to do it. And I was asking a friend of mine who was more technological to help me, and he was like, oh no, don't do it. So, and I just couldn't figure it out at that time on my own. So it was a few years later. And, there was also sort of the possibility that it wasn't going to take off back then. But it was 2016 when I did get in. I was watching it in 2016. I was like, I've got to buy this. And then basically I have my great uncle is one of the most famous economists in the world. He was when he was alive. His name is Abba Lerner, and his book Inflation is taught in a lot of Ivy League schools. And, he has been communicating with me about crypto from the other side, right, all along. So in 2016, my spiritual guides were like yelling at me to buy it. And I had gotten a chunk of money, so I put most of it into crypto at the end of 2016. And that's, where the journey began. There was definitely a lot of learning that went on with dealing with this new infrastructure, this new environment as it evolved and grew along the way. Some of the tricks, some of the, just the disinformation, a lot of viciousness of trolls and like propaganda and manipulation of the market that came to be really obvious over those years after I joined in 2016. But I was immersed, right? For the next year, I was just like learning everything I could and writing some articles as well on Steemit and things like that. So that's pretty much how I got in. And then I didn't really start, I had my YouTube channel, and I didn't really come out and start doing real public forecasts until May of this year. And that's basically when I started. And then a month or two after that, I started the timing report, and I started my Patreon in September. So I've been working with people this last year, for less than a year, and getting prepared for the swings, the big events that are going on in the world, that sort of thing. So that's it.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing. And Marius?
That's a fantastic story, Aura. Yeah, it's really great. And thank you for everybody that's here as well. Bill, I'm just going to be very quick. I'm not going to give a long story, but I think my journey in crypto started when I was about 12 years old. Now, most of you know that I grew up in an orphanage in South Africa. And growing up in the orphanage gave me a lot of inside or inner abilities. And it made you so strong. And that is what's coming out now, where the resilience that I had is what is actually pushing me forward now. Now, when I was 12 years old, I just one day had a very big vision, lying on the grass, closed my eyes, and suddenly I moved myself into Alaska catching fish. And I awoke kind of from there. I wasn't sleeping, but I just call it I awoke. And I suddenly realized that, wow, my brain, my mind is so powerful. And I decided from the age of 12 that I'm going to put my mind to work and see if this really works. Because if I had such a great experience feeling like I was in Alaska, days after that, It felt that I was there, that I could feel the ice, the cold. I could see myself catching that salmon. It was such a real experience. And then what I did is in school. Now, I wasn't the brightest kid in school, but I grew up in a place called Dispatch in South Africa, and I became the top student from nowhere. The teachers were amazed. They, even when we wrote exams, put somebody next to me to make sure that I'm not cheating. And I excelled through school. Now remember, you have to think back here in the 1980s now. In the 1980s, when you were an orphan kid, you were nothing in South Africa. You were an outcast. We had to sit in the back of the class on the floor, never had shoes, broken, torn clothing. You were the outcast. When the bell rang, when we had a pause, let's say when you go out to school and you have a bit of a pause and you play around, we never had food. So we were waiting at the rubbish bins. When the bell rang, people would throw their sandwiches in there. Then we would dig the sandwiches out just to have food. So that created in me the ability to look after the little guy. I'm for the little guy, and I always will be. So right through my life, I ended up going through school, top student. I wanted to become a special forces soldier in South Africa in the military. And I was a skinny kid. Everybody laughed at me and said, you will never make it, you can't make it. But I put my mind to work. And I said to myself daily, I will make it. And guess what? I left South Africa as a lieutenant, the military. I became one of the best, well-known special forces. And guys, it's not about braggadocious. Just understand me right. I'm trying to get a point across. I became a lieutenant in the special forces. 2 people of 600 people qualified for that in my segment. Only 2 people. So, and the evidence is there. I know a lot of people have hit me, trolls have hit me, but there's a well-known commander or lieutenant general actually in the South African Army who validated this. If you go into the parachute battalion in Bloemfontein in South Africa, I'm even on the wall. You know, they call it the Wall of Fame. And that's where they got the picture. So it's a true story. It's not a lie. You can, if you live in Bloemfontein, South Africa, go into parachute battalion, you'll see it's there. But I want to show you the power of your mind. Then what I did is I left South Africa. I went and studied in America, and I wanted to go and work for the biggest companies in the world. I went and studied, came out, started working for Shell in the oil and gas industry. Now I finished with a master's in occupational health and safety with a medical background as well as an engineering background, unheard of. Now remember, when I went to America, I could barely speak English. It may sound that I speak English very well, but English is actually my 4th language. So I went and worked for Shell, for the largest oil and gas companies in the world. And still today, I do a lot of work for Shell, BP, Woodside, Halliburton, Schlumberger, you name it, the largest oil and gas companies in the world. So what I did is in the last 8, 9, 10 years, I developed an algorithmic formula. Now this formula takes into account what the oil and gas companies have been doing for the last 10 years. If we go back in Shell and we say, okay, right, how did you drill in drilling and completions to get the gas out of the ground? And we take all the data, and this is very important that we understand this, and I think Ora will touch on this. I'll hand over to Ora shortly. Just give me another 2 minutes. If you take all the data, the past data of the 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago from Shell, BP, Woodside, Halliburton, and you have a look and see how they operated. Just remember, they operate according to a procedure, a safe work method statement, a standard operating procedure, whatever they use. If I take that data, put it in the system, and I say, based on your past history, this is how you work. These are the incidents that you had over the number of 40 years. I can now predict and say to Shell, BP, Woodside, Halliburton, Shell, when you will have a fatality, a near miss, or an incident. And guys, it was astonishing how accurate these things were. I'm very famous for calling 2 fatalities that were going to happen in around about 2012-13 for a very large oil and gas company in Australia. We warned them and we said in June there's going to be a fatality. They didn't take notice and bang, it happened. They called me in, they said, how do we stop the next fatality? We said the next fatality is in September. This is what you do. They did it, they had a near miss, and the person survived. And since then, it's been taking off. Now, what happened one day is that I was sitting in bed, just looking at my phone, and Wendy was sitting next to me, quickly going through her emails, and she was just laughing and said, "Wow." And I said, "What are you laughing about? Why are you so happy?" She said, "No, look at all this profit I made." And one of the coins that she invested in cryptocurrencies jumped up 34,000%. Now you can imagine the profit that she made. And I didn't take much notice of it. And because I wasn't really interested in crypto, I've heard about Bitcoin, and little did I know that she invested in Bitcoin about 6 months before I even thought about it. And she made staggering gains. She showed me that, and I couldn't sleep that night. I went like, this is unbelievable. I need to have a look at this. I couldn't sleep. And for the next week, I analyzed Bitcoin only. And I had a look at the past data. Now, remember this, guys. If you want to know where you are going to be in 10 years from now, 5 years from now, listen to what you say to yourself today. If you constantly say that I will never get out of debt, I will never make it, I always lose, whenever I buy, the market goes down, guess what? It will keep on happening. This is the same as the oil and gas companies. If they keep on doing what they did in the past, they're going to have the same results. And this is why I mentioned this to you. So I started looking at Bitcoin specifically, and I discovered an algorithmic pattern. And that algorithmic pattern is the one that I started trading from late 2016, 2017, and then where we are now, probably the world's largest subscription base with over 22,000 members all around the world. Now, we are very big in Africa. Africa is coming along really well. Now, just understand me right, guys. We don't get everything 100% correct. We don't know why. We would predict certain things. It doesn't play out like that. I don't think anybody can really be that accurate. Sometimes our dates and timelines don't work, but we are more accurate than what, or we are reasonably accurate. Like, for example, one of the things, and I think Aura will probably touch on that now, we see a drop coming. This drop is going to happen probably in the next 24 to 48 hours. A major drop. We're going to go below 4,000. This is what we predict. So this is just a short journey from where I came to where we are now. So I'll hand over to you, Bill. Thank you.
Thanks, Marius. Thank you for sharing, and Aura, thank you for sharing as well. So I'm just going to give a little brief history of me, Bill Nolan. I straddle both Marius and Aura's sites, and what I found was amazing, the correlation between Aura's pricing and timing and Marius's pricing. And there were too many hits to be just coincidental, because I don't believe there are any coincidences. So over time, and watching and being a member of both of their websites, I thought, man, this would be a great opportunity to get the two of them together and share how they see the crypto industry. You know, a little bit of a look ahead from 2020 to 2023, with maybe some focus on some geopolitics, some things that are going on in the world that maybe can be a little bit sensitive to talk about individually on your channels. But I think that this is a quote unquote safe space today. And so if there are things that we want to discuss or things that we feel relevant to what's going on in the world, I think we should tackle those those areas and let's talk about it. So, Aura, if I could, we'll start with the first question, and you've got it, but I'll read it here, and then we'll jump off from here. Can you give us a big picture overview of where we are headed in 2020, taking into consideration this year from an astrological perspective appears to be a very busy year with 5 eclipses? Also, can you explain to our members the significance of an eclipse and how it impacts us, and how we can use this information to prepare and prosper?
Okay, sure, absolutely. So, first of all, I just want to respond to something that Marius was saying about, your mind, of course, being the ruling factor of what you manifest in your life. That's absolutely true. But also, I just like to point out that most people who have gotten into crypto by now, who are here already, are sort of the outcasts or the weird ones, or the people who've had sort of unusual experiences in life, because that's kind of what made us a little different enough to swim against the tide, right? And to go get into this space. So, and I am definitely one of those people. I mean, I didn't really get into my childhood thing, but I'm the child of hippies, and I grew up in this completely alternative universe where I was exposed to all these ideas that have become mainstream later. But I started learning astrology when I was 9 years old. So I was really young, and I studied it from my stepmother, and then I was just fascinated, right? So I just learned everything I could about it. And I learned how to do the math by hand, which nobody does now because you've got computers. But and also what Marius was saying about a drop coming in crypto, that's definitely ties in and it confirms, or I can confirm that that's what I'm getting astrologically. So this is going to be our next good window for buying in before we have a really big spike in April. So, but the astrology, okay, let's talk about astrology. So first of all, there's timing to every year. We have the seasonal degrees are hugely important, and I'm not going to get into great detail about them. We just had the spring equinox. It signals the beginning of the new year. It's the new astrological year because it's Aries, it's the start, it's the beginning of everything. We're moving into the religious season of Easter, which has certain energetic principles and properties and powers to it. There's just sort of some physio, I don't want to say physio, the word's escaping me. I'm thinking like there's certain like gravitational differences on those days of the year. There's the longest day of the year, the shortest day of the year. The equinoxes, the spring and fall equinoxes, are 2 days where you can literally take an egg, and I've done this, and balance it on its narrow, pointy end. There's only 2 days of the year you can do it, and it will stay there. It will just stay there until the gravitational shift happens so that it's no longer in balance like that. And it will, I did this one year, went to bed, and it had rolled off the counter and fallen on the ground and broken the next morning. But you can do this during that day. We just passed it, but it happens again in the fall. So the seasonal degrees have, and so this is just a gravitational reality, right? This is physics, but it has an impact on us on an energetic and spiritual level as well, because it is about the framework of the planet. It is the grid of the planet. And to me, those degrees, the fall, the spring, summer, winter, fall degrees are all about this major battle that humanity's always been in, about the battle between good versus evil. So the timing of the eclipses, so eclipses, in fact, there's 6 of them in 2020, not 5. We always every year have 2 pairs, which is 4 eclipses. They come in pairs. There's a solar and a lunar eclipse. So this year we have 3 pairs of them. We've already had 2 of them. I think we might have only had 1. I can't remember now.
We have 1.
We have had 1, so we have 5 more, right? So we have 2 coming up in June, right? So we're in the window of energy of those eclipses. So one of them is on June 5th, and the other one is on the summer solstice of June 21st. This is probably the hinge point for everything that is taking place this year in the world. It is incredibly important. Now, 3 years ago, we had a total eclipse. I wrote an article where I discussed a virus and the potential for a pandemic virus. And that was actually within the window of time when the coronavirus was patented. So it wasn't released to the world until now. So the eclipses, what happens is that we enter a zone of their influence from 3 months before they happen, and then the impact lasts until 3 months after. So they're all 6 months of influence. Something really profound like a solar eclipse on the summer solstice is even stronger. So this is essentially the era, the age, the information that was being predicted by the Mayans at the end of the Kali Yuga, when they talk about the 144,000, Baktun, and the changing of the era from one era to the other. And what we are actually experiencing is an end of the era of darkness and moving into an era of light. However, that requires personal choice and responsibility on an individual level for us to manifest that. So it's good news, but the forces of darkness don't want that. So the eclipse energies become we start to feel them 3 months in advance. They become stronger 2 weeks in advance of the eclipse, and then they're most strong the 3 days before the eclipse happens, up until. So from the 18th to the 21st of June, we're going to have really intense energies about this particular eclipse. And the solar eclipse on the summer solstice, which is the hottest day of the year, the longest day of the year, and represents the sign of Cancer, the 0 degree of Cancer. It is the strongest emotion, the most intense feelings, right? And that is what this degree represents. Also sort of divine feminine energy, the mother, the divine mother energy, whereas, the other, there's different archetypes represented by the other energies. So it's emotion. It's about emotion. And the kind of issues that are going on right now and unfolding on the world right now are about triggering us into negative emotion. And the more negative emotion that we experience and that we buy into, like watching the news every night and listening to them tell us horrible things about, be scared of, that triggers us to manifest these negative realities. So this is an opportunity for all of us to look into our emotional content and to overcome our fears and to choose. We can either be in faith or fear. You can either be coming from love or you can be coming from fear. So this is our opportunity to be coming from love and community and unity instead of that place of fear. And it is so much more powerful to do that. And it is how we manifest positive future for ourselves and for our loved ones. So while it's important to recognize realities around us, it's also important to interpret them and use them in a positive way. So that's kind of my overview on the astrology. These eclipses are making major world events happen this year. Mainly, the main focus point would be that solar eclipse, because it is key to the gravitational pull on the planet. It is key to our own personal, individual true north or south, internally. So any force, so the goal of forces of darkness is going to be to scramble us, confuse us, put us into negative emotion and darker states of consciousness. So that's the challenge, is overcoming it. And there are frightening things happening in the world. So each of us is going to be faced with our, the id, that part of the consciousness that is all of our fears that are buried under the bed, right? So we get a chance to examine them and dismantle them and defeat them, right? Like in Harry Potter, it's like the boggart. You can put it in a dress and put it on roller skates and make it look ridiculous, because that works. That's actually really powerful. So that's kind of my take on the key astrology of this year.
So can I ask then, given that we know pretty much ahead of time when these eclipses will be occurring, how do we prepare well, I think you've given us a good indication of how we prepare ourselves for them, I think from an emotional and spiritual standpoint, but right, from a financial and crypto standpoint, what do these indicate in that particular world, in the crypto world?
So eclipses aren't really going to influence the price. Well, sort of. They impact the chart of Bitcoin, right? So they're going to show me the area. Well, so I don't have. So Bitcoin is its own. There's not. It gives me some indication of how it's going to be used and manipulated. The timing I do is basically aspects on the Bitcoin chart. But what I can say about what these eclipses are telling me about financial matters is that this is the timing when they're setting up the reset of the financial system. And beginning last fall, I think, I was seeing that Trump was going to be having a meeting with all the heads of state of like China and other, the whatever Davos, whatever, all those leaders that get together. And they're going to discuss a reset of the financial system. They're going to create a new financial yardstick. It will be some new instrument. I was getting the word converge or concord or accord, something along those lines that they're going to use to name it. And that will be the yardstick by which all fiat money is going to be valued. It could be a gold stable reset. This is literally the reset. It is happening. And so that's what I see it as this is the timing of the financial reset. In the meantime, we have lots of very volatile moves coming that we're already experiencing, right? We just watched the stock market drop 40%, and silver dropped down to $11 in paper, but you couldn't find it that easily.
Buy it,
every supplier was running out. So these are the kind of things that we're trying to be prepared for, right? These are the things I discuss with my people. And that's what's going on, is that I think that by June 21st, and those 3 days before June 21st, they're going to be really creating all kinds of fear in people about the markets, and what's going on with them. But there will be, bank shutdowns. There will be, and this could be happening in the next 3 weeks because of Easter. So they want to establish that the old system isn't working anymore. So they want to herd everyone into their new system. So we could, it's a good idea to get your money out of the banks, and you could at least put it in a stable coin, into a, one of the dollar stable coins, crypto stable coins, because they're going to shut down banks, and people are not going to be able to get their money out. They're going to limit you to, like, I don't know, $200 a week or something. And it's going to be like, that's my money, but you can't touch it. So you don't want that to happen to you at all. So getting it into your own hands in whatever way you can as soon as possible is the way to do that, is the way to protect yourself. So this is the kind of thing that these eclipses show me. They show me the areas. When I look at the eclipse chart, it shows me the pattern of what is planned, basically what they're planning to do with that energy. Because I promise you that the forces, the cabal, the elite, the forces of darkness or whatever, they know astrology. They do use it. They understand how to use the symbolism for their benefit. So we want to use it for our benefit. So, that's how that plays out.
Agree 100%. And I think we always talk about this. JP Morgan said, millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. That's right. And so it is definitely taken seriously in that strata of the financial world. So, so then do you see, and I think Marius kind of chimed in at the same time, you guys see a drop in cryptos in this current cycle. Do you see us touching new lows in this current cycle, or just bouncing off an old low back to maybe $8,000 or $9,000?
Did you want me to go there, Bill, or?
Yeah, Marius, you want to go? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. For us to find the exact low is very difficult, because when you go down and you work out the mathematical equations, nothing works out. Like any TA at the moment, trending analysis, trading analysis, any technical analysis just doesn't work out really, even from that perspective. But what we do see is that we do break below $4,000. The problem is this: when you break below $4,000 and you then break, let me just see what that level is. It's actually my report, and I can't remember now the report of 2 or 3 days ago that we said. But there's a certain resistance level.
36 something.
I think it was 36. If we break below that level,
36.90.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. If we break below that, our data shows that we are going to land around about $3,000, more or less. Now, that for me will be a very good entry point if we land there. Yes. Because to time the exact low is going to be completely difficult, because you sit with a control of price in the cryptocurrency world. For example, the previous drop in Bitfinex stopped exactly at $4,000, not $4,001.25, $4,000 on Bitfinex. How is that even possible? At weeks down to that price, some orders get executed and then it goes up. Now, here is the key. At $3,000, what we see mathematically, that is about, from memory, about a 43% drop. You can actually go and work out what the other cryptos will drop as well, more or less the same percentage. But now, I always leave a little bit of cash on the side. I don't buy it all. You lather in your buys. Because if it weaks down and drops below 3,000, the lowest that we see it go, and way back in September last year, we did a webinar and we warned, and we told our members, and we said, look guys, the lowest that we see mathematically Bitcoin drop is 1867. So be prepared for 1867. That was the exact number we gave at that time. And we said at that point that when it drops, it will be a world event, which we now know is kind of like coronavirus, but the world economy is bad as well. I mean, in my opinion, I think they are just blaming the world monetary system, the bad economy, just on coronavirus. That's my own opinion here, because the world economy is still terrible. But if it goes further down, the lowest target is 1325, 1325. The way you play this drop is you ladder in your buys. You never ever go. Somebody asked me yesterday and said, I've got 7,000. At what level do I buy? I said, no, it's not as simple as that. What you do is split it up in 10 segments and create 10 different orders. So you buy when it goes to 3.6 because it's less than 4. You buy when it goes to 3.5. You buy when it goes to 3.4, and you just wait. Because when the market turns up, and my report actually shows how we go down. Remember, we go down to a certain level. You'll see 7 points down. Like normally you get 5 waves down in Elliott wave. This will have 7 waves down to the bottom. And I believe at the bottom what's going to happen is that it's going to create a inverted head and shoulders. And then we're going to come back up again. So when you see that inverted head and shoulders, remember it comes down on the left, it creates a shoulder, it goes up, and then it goes lower. Now it's always difficult to figure out where that is because it can even go lower. But when you see that head being created where it goes back up, almost the same level as the head and shoulders, then you know that it's going to go further up and then drop again, the same as the left side, and that is a good entry. So that's how you find the low. Yeah. I hope that answers the question, Bill.
Can I
Yes,
interject
thank you,
something
Marius. Yes.
really quick about that? So what I get is just the time zones. Like I've been, and I was told numbers, right? Like my guides were giving me numbers. So last fall, like September, August, I was getting that we're dropping down to 4,000 and 3,600, right? So that I get them a little more round than you. I don't get like the last two numbers usually, but this month in March, the timing report had a couple of days where we were, and I was very strongly saying, I expect us to go under $4,000 here in March. And we did. We dropped down to 30, under 44, down to, you're saying it says 4 on Bitfinex. But when I would look on TradingView, there are drops down into the 37 that happened this month in March. So it just kind of depends sometimes where you're looking. But I agree with you on laddering in your buys. That's exactly the way to do it. I was also told last summer, that we were going to drop down to, what I got was 1,300. So you have something above 1,300. I would, obviously say, don't try and catch the $1,300 level. Try and catch 1,400, right? Always set your buy orders and your sell orders with a little cushion to the top and the bottom, because trying to catch those ends is really where you get like spun out of the machine, right? You want to be careful. So you don't want that to happen to you. But so, yeah, we're getting the same kind of information. What I get is dates and times, and I get given some, and they're windows. I don't ever know exactly. Like I've been waiting for 6 months for these lows to happen, but I knew the numbers and I was waiting for the windows for that to happen. So what happens is, because we got down to that $4,000 level in March, we're going to have to go down to it again in order to complete the pattern. The pattern's not done. It's like, and it's not over, because we still have to get all the way down to 13. But that doesn't mean between here and $1,300 Bitcoin that we're not going to get $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 Bitcoin first before we go down to 1,300. So this is a stomach churning year as far as owning your crypto and playing the markets. It's one of the reasons I say that trading, or at least swing trading, is a survival skill in this market, because that's how it's how you cope with the feelings of dealing with it, of being in it, So that's just what I wanted to interject with that.
Now, Bill, can I just say something on that?
Oh, go ahead, sure.
It's really amazing, actually, Ora. You just mentioned that September last year that you saw these prices dropping, and that's exactly at that time when we came out of that. And we also said at that point, we did the webinar, I don't know, somewhere in September, 19 September or something. But this is very interesting, Ora, that what you are mentioning. I've always said that I'm not willing to call the low, even with this now. We could go down to 3,000, then we could go back up to 10,000, somewhere around there. We're still working on that. But then there's a possibility that we do come down and then touch the low of 1.3. So you're right. We actually see the same data actually, because if we go to 3,000 now, guys, be very careful. And we then go up, be prepared that there could be a lower low. Whereas I believe that if we go down to 1,285, somewhere in that region, then we won't come down. I see around
that'll be bottom.
Yeah, that's the
bottom.
Yeah, that's the
that's
bottom.
Finally the bottom.
Yeah, so it's interesting that we actually see the same kind of data. We just don't know the cycle. But one interesting thing that I want to give you guys here today is that my cycle analysis point to, listen to this, to not about 9 o'clock, 9:45, somewhere in that region on Friday morning, South American time, New York time, as the low for Bitcoin. Some news are going to be announced that will push the world stock markets up. Now remember, this 10% gain that we had overnight is a fake breakout. It's a reaction, in my opinion, to the Fed and who knows who just infusing
buying
money.
Everything.
That's it, just buying.
The Fed buying everything.
This is a good sign. And I think, Bill, when you and I spoke, I said, I'm waiting for that 10% pull up. And then comes a plunge. That plunge will coincide with the drop in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. But the low point, according to me now and my analysis, is Friday between 9 and 9:45. It could be a little bit earlier.
AM or PM, Marius?
AM in the morning. It looks to me like somebody is going to come out on Friday morning, American time, and announce a big stimulus package. And that pushes the world stock markets back up again. Just for reference. Okay, just over to you.
Yeah, but no, that's fantastic. I don't have a time exact on it, but that's what they've been doing. If you look at every Friday, sort of they're just trying to keep the ball from crashing through the floor for another week. They're like buying a week here and a week there until they're buying their program of buying all the stocks directly gets in place and is in gear, because it does take them a little while to actually put those things in motion. And this is also what I've been saying on my channel, is that they're going to buy everything, and that's what they're going to do. And the stock markets will reinflate to all-time highs. That's why we're going to see these markets are acting like a drunken sailor. I mean, it's like making everybody's stomach churn is what we're going to be experiencing. And the other thing, that the next thing to watch for is bonds. Bonds will probably skyrocket and then crash obscenely, like to low levels. So we're witnessing the implosion of a market that is highly digital, highly leveraged, highly fictional. So the unraveling of it is it's like this piece starts going flying off and then that gear comes loose. It's like watching an engine come flying apart. That's really what we're experiencing. So it's good to hear your actual time, because I am getting those lows. I can't say, I get some date ranges, but I'm not, again, like you said, nobody's perfect. Nobody has everything. We're not God, right? God has that information. So it's interesting that we have very good information that dovetails in this way.
And I think Marius, even, from past webinars, has indicated there's some price targets in the bond market that, Marius, if you wanted to speak to that if we hit these specific price targets, it's game over.
Yeah, we're hitting them. I guarantee it. I don't know what they are.
Yeah, that is true, Bill. Remember on the last webinar that I did last week, I said that the bond market, let's say, for example, if you look at the US government bonds, the 10-year yield, I said it's going to go down to 0.032. And people thought I was crazy. And guess what? Just yesterday or the day before, it hit that exact target. So what we now see is that it's going to go upwards now first, and then it's going to start dropping again. But in my data, what it shows, or you may be a little bit different, but I show that we go up now with the bond market, just short term now, and then it comes back and it drops again to around about 25 cents. Specifically now the US government bond, the 10-year yield.
Yeah,
and
the 10-year.
And then the government comes in and saves the day, and the bond market goes back up. So they actually come and save it. So this is what we show in our data at the moment.
You're probably right, because that is the big one that implodes everything, is the bond market, and they are willing to buy everything. So why wouldn't they buy the bonds too? That makes perfect sense. Just the volatility of it is where we're, you
Correct.
know, that's why it's a little dangerous when people want to make trades or short markets. I did have someone who shorted silver because I was seeing it go down to 11 on the paper market, and he did really well shorting that. But it is dangerous because of those quick ups and downs that you're referring to, and the fact that this is, you know, they have cheats for the game, right? So it doesn't operate the way it should. And that's kind of on purpose, to trick people and to mess them up. So I agree with the laddered buy strategy. I also really caution people to be very careful, because at any time they could do a fake out on the market. They could just change their plan, actually, because that's basically where we're at.
No, agree, 100%.
Absolutely. Bill, I just want to say one more thing just before my voice actually goes out. Remember, this drop that I'm talking about now could potentially be the bottom of, let's say, Friday USA time. But then I see we go up a little bit, up, up, as they try and save the world markets, and then comes another drop. So just remember that, guys. There's another drop after that. That won't be the final drop. No, sorry, I'm talking about Bitcoin. Sorry, I'm talking about Bitcoin. Yeah, Bitcoin. And but that also happens in bonds, Aura, you know, where the bond, the 10-year yield goes up, it goes back up, and then it comes for a second drop, but the second drop is not as low. Bitcoin may go the same level, or it may go lower, slightly lower. Now, this is the good news. Remember this, what I have discovered in Bitcoin is that Bitcoin is very forgiving. It's a fantastic coin, really. I've often told this story, and many of you haven't heard it really, but some of you have. Remember, before I got into Bitcoin, I woke up one morning, walked from the bedroom into the bathroom, and before I got in the shower, luckily I had my clothes on, but I had this vision of an angel just standing with his wing, and I saw the Bitcoin chart, and the angel with his left wing was kind of like protecting the downside. And that image has always stuck in my mind. And what we are seeing here now, this drop, if you look at the angel, is the angel's left wing. And I saw this 3 years ago. And it's like the angel's, you know, the tip of the angel's wing is kind of 1285, 1867, somewhere around there. You know, more or less. You don't have to get it accurate, you know. But from there onwards, and I saw this about 3 years ago, we have a move upwards. But remember the tip of the angel's wing. If you imagine now Bitcoin goes down and it has one more move up and then comes down again, like the tip of an angel's wing, the tip of a bird. And then from there on, if you look at the outer tip of a bird, it goes up in stages. Up, 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 back to 10,000. Now, remember, when we have this drop, I'm not willing to say this is the final drop unless we drop to about 1285. Similar to what Aura is saying, actually. Over to you, Bill. Yeah. I'll stop talking. I want to hear from Aura.
No worries.
Well, no, I just want to answer that, which is that I agree with the way you're looking, with the way you see it. And it sort of is an angelic protection, because it's allowing people to get in, right? It's getting people the opportunity to have this life-changing goals, these life-changing gains from crypto. And if you buy in on these dips, or even really anything under $5,000, you're going to have your life change, and it's really going to be a huge protection, even if you just buy it and hold it, right? So, but I do see, and I know you're describing the shape of a wing of an angel, but when Bitcoin does really start to take off, once after that blow is done, and it may, you know, of course, nothing goes up in a straight line. There's always some waves on the way up, but there's going to be a moment where it's just vertical. It's going to go up a lot. That edge of that wing is a long way of up before we get a break in it, once it really starts taking off. So there's going to be a moment where institutions are piling in, people are piling, people are not going to be able to get it. This is actually in the Bitcoin channeling that I did, that's going to happen. So we do want to make sure that we're completely in the market after that, or at that, you know, $1,400 level. You just want to be as in it as you can. And of course, hopefully you all have your silver as well, because those things are both incredibly valuable to the future for us. So I see it similarly, is basically what I'm saying.
No, I think that you guys have been your calls have been really very, very close over the last year and a half that I've been following both of you. So I think that's a good indication that the information is fairly accurate.
Yeah.
So given that we've got this potential bottom that we have yet to see at, say, 1285, 1300, and I know we don't like to maybe always use the word the market is manipulated, but let's say the prices are controlled versus manipulated. And or you've seen a pretty big increase, a vertical line in Bitcoin. And Marius, are you seeing a similar situation with Bitcoin and the algorithms as well?
Absolutely, Bill. It looks like when I listen to what Aura is saying, that we are actually seeing the same data. Now, remember, my data is a mathematical equation because we work it out mathematically how things go up and how things go down. Sometimes it doesn't work out because, in my opinion, what has happened with this drop here is something unnatural, and that can sometimes just break a mathematical equation. But remember what I showed on the webinar last week, Friday or Thursday. I showed that this drop, the pattern that we are forming now, could have been at a higher level as well. We should have been now at 14,000, and then we have a drop. So it's the same, the mathematical equation is still the same, but from a lower level. So instead of working from $14 as per se, we're working now from $6 and $7. But the mathematical formula is still the same, the percentages are still the same. Now, price will meet time. It always happens like that. This is why I believe what Aura says is correct, that we are going to go up in April. We will have a spike at some point because it has to come back and realign, as per se. Because I believe, and this is what I said in September, if it happens, it will be an unnatural event. And coronavirus is an unnatural event. It's a natural event, but an unnatural event. The natural event is the failing world stock markets. But the unnatural event pushed it further. So yes, I do see exactly the same, Bill. It's fascinating to listen to Aura, really.
It is interesting to compare the two.
Yeah.
So Aura, just another question here for you. So could you maybe address the war, and I think you addressed it a little bit earlier in your first comments, the war between good and evil, as we're seeing it now taking place everywhere, and how the comment "as above, so below" relates to what's going on in the world today. Is, if we're seeing a physical war happening here on Earth, what's going on in the realms that we can't see, and how is that impacting us?
Right.
Or potentially going to impact us.
Yeah, it is a spiritual war. I mean, so what's going on our own spiritual level? Like, we are physical, we live here on Earth, but we have spiritual elements to us. There are other dimensions to us. And so we are on a spiritual level fighting a war. And so are sort of positive angels and demons, the positive and negative forces of the universe. That battle is going on. Now, spoiler alert, the good guys win, right? But it's a battle still. We still have to go through the battle. So yes, what's going on in terms?
We can't hear you.
So that we can transcend them and overcome them. So this is really bringing it up into people's faces. So this is also something that is discussed in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. It's these are ancient texts, and he talks about the archons. And I mean, I don't know if he uses the word archon, but archon are sort of negative entities or energies that want to keep humans in a fear-based, low vibrational energy, all the 7 deadly sins, right? That's what they're trying to market everything to us. That's where they try and keep us. And this is, this is compatible with what religion says, right? So
he refers to them as the dark brothers.
The dark brothers, yeah, the 7 deadly sins.
The dark brothers.
Yeah. So this is how they unleash fear. They unleash anger, vanity, domination, lust, all pride, ego. All these things are unleashed. Laziness are unleashed upon us. Like we're triggered in our weaknesses to pull us down to those levels because we're easy to control in that way. But when we refuse to take the bait, then we open our hearts and we raise ourselves to a higher vibrational level, then we can't be controlled. And that's essentially what this, it's like a wheat from the chaff is going on. It's like a shaking. I think this is a biblical metaphor, right? Of all the people being those kernels who are being separated out. Those who have positive, predominantly positive impulses are going to be transcending this dark energy and these dark forces. But those archons feed on our dark energies. They feed on our fears. They feed on our angers. That's what their food is. That's why they have to create so much of it on earth. And that's why they're going to do things like roll out a war and roll out like a lot more global control grid coming down this year. That's another part of what's going on that's going to lead up to the prices that we're seeing in these markets being dramatic and making these big dramatic moves. So that's how I see it. It is a spiritual battle, and ultimately part of what's happening is that this new infrastructure, this new global one world system, this new global currency, this one world order, all these things are actual structures that do need to get built out. So it's part of the reason it's allowed to unfold in this way. People have their free choice, right? People have to be given the freedom to choose which way they want to go, who they want to serve, who they want to be involved, what world they want to be part of. And also that infrastructure has to get built out so that it can ultimately be taken over by the brothers of light, right? So that's what I see happening, is like the sort of a final battle is the brothers of light take over the system. But I can't tell you exactly when that's happening. It's just what I see. Yeah.
But I think you did a pretty good job of calling out to your Patreon members. And I think you started even in 2019, giving us a heads up that the control grid is coming down.
Right.
And I think the date you even gave us was as of January 1st, it's game on. And the control grid goes into place. And how and what are we doing to prepare for the inevitable, to protect our freedom, to protect our privacy, and ultimately at the end of the day, if we're in cryptos because we believe that at some point there will be windfall profits associated with it. And how do we protect our financial future? Do you still so now we're 3 months into 2020. I definitely feel it. What do you see for the rest of the year?
So there's what the dark forces are planning and the plans that they're rolling out. And then there's what's going to happen and what's going on with the people, right? And the individual people. So, I mean, I have like a list of things, and I'm, just want to say this, like, these might sound scary, but we also have the opportunity to create the opposite ourselves. Okay. So it's just information that we can use to move things in the direction for ourselves and the people we care about and we want to be tied up with, that teamed up with, that it's important to know this for. So even though they're doing all these things, the people are going to be joining together. We're going to get more and more unity in community and groups of people who believe the same things. And that is kind of the next stage of it. It's one of the things I didn't want to project too far in advance previously, because people sometimes need to see what's happening before they recognize that, well, yeah, that's probably a good idea to team up and be part of a community. So
I'm laughing because how much more do you need to see right now?
Well, yeah, now it's pretty clear. But so the thing is that those who are in position in crypto to make a lot of money and to do really well are on point. They're spiritually charged with helping to rebuild, right? To create something that is going to be more sustainable, more collectively humane, right? This system we live in right now isn't. So the things that they're trying to do, and these things that they're trying to do are going to drive people towards each other. And so what we're going to see is that they're going to be shutting down the banks, right? They're going to be, there's going to be military occupation in the streets. They're going to be trying to keep people indoors. By the way, there's nothing that says that going outdoors is bad for COVID-19. You can go outside and breathe fresh air. You're not going to catch COVID-19 from the air, right? You could catch it if you're in a gathering of a lot of people, at, the local grocery store, right? Shopping, but you're much safer going outdoors. And it's a good idea to take a walk every day. It's good for your immune system. So they're going to be trying to scare people into their homes. There's that. And part of the reason that they're doing this is because if you were to start talking to your neighbor and you guys were to chat, then you'd have people spreading information, and then you have a whole neighborhood of people who are working together, and now they've lost that neighborhood, right? They can't control that neighborhood because that neighborhood's taking care of each other. So that's kind of why that goes that way. But they're going to implode these markets, and by buying everything and making it pure fiction, and then eventually they're going to create the reset of all money, which is this global meeting of the heads of state where they create this new value, and it will be some kind of gold-backed probably thing. All the fiat currencies will continue to exist for a while, maybe even forever, but they're going to create a global currency, that's going to be sort of that yardstick of value that I'm seeing. They're going to they're trying to create a global one world order, a one world government. Right now, what's going on with all these businesses are being thrown, shut down basically because they have to shut because of the virus, right? They're all being told people aren't going to shop and all this thing. So they're going to give loans to those people that have those companies, so that now those company owners are slaves to the debt system. But they're consolidating all the power of all the transactions into small hands, right? Into a few corporate hands like Amazon and, just these smaller few companies.
The too big to fail banks.
Yeah, well, yeah, some of them are going to fail.
At some point.
At some point, but they're consolidating it into their control grid, so that now it's like, you need something, you want to eat something, well, you can only call Grubhub or Postmates, and there's no other way. You can't call your local restaurant anymore. You want to order something, you can only call Amazon, right? Maybe some eBay still. So they're trying to consolidate this because then they can control the flow of resources, right? And not just money, but also the things that are supposed to be shipped to us around the world. So, and there's lots and lots of disruption of that as well. So we're going to be better off when we team up with our neighbors and our people in our community, and we have sharing of resources, trading of resources, growing of food, mutual benefit, right? Creating mutual, community gardens where there's growing going on, but also like, hey, I have a lot of tomatoes and you've got some lemons, let's trade. That sort of thing is, they can't control it. They're going to sort of try, but they're not going to be able to. And so these are the things that are cropping up. These are the things that are growing. And in fact, and also places where, so in fact, those communities where people are strong and working together and doing these things mutually are going to flourish. They're going to do really well. And more of those communities will be in agricultural environments because it's just more possible to do this stuff in cities, it's so easy for them to control large populations in big cities. So that's what's going to be the successes, right, that are going to come out of this. And also those smaller communities are going to start taking crypto, start using crypto for transactions, most predominantly Bitcoin Cash and some Litecoin. Bitcoin obviously is harder to use for transactions, but and there will be a regional currencies sometimes that people are using, but cryptos are going to really be used. And also the holding of larger sums of crypto is going to be like, what's going to end up happening is a lot of people who are really successful in crypto are going to be able to bank their own community and create their own environment system that and we're going to end up with templates. People are going to come up with templates as to how to do this that is sustainable and mutually supportive, okay, that is not the exploitative kind of system that we have now. Not that there won't ever be problems, but we're going to really learn how to actually work together and live together in real communities of people. So that's the good stuff that's coming out of it. And this is all that summer solstice energy is like. Real community, true community is circular, right? It is shaped in a circle. that everyone is around the circle, and it's strong as a circle, and everyone is unified and working together, and it's not these pyramid structures, right? The pyramid shapes that are all the Illuminati structures with one power at the top. So real human communities have to be, and a circle is a feminine shape. It's a female shape. It's a community type shape. It's tied to the summer solstice degree. But if they can keep us in fear and keep us divided at the bottom of the pyramid, then they have control over your circle. So this is about us creating real circles with real human values and walking away from the destruction of human value.
Agree. I actually had a conversation yesterday with somebody that Marius and you and I know. And we were talking, and he said he was going to spend $100. He said, Bill, I'm going to take a couple $100. I'm going to invite all my neighbors into the house one evening, one afternoon. And I'm going to explain what cryptocurrencies are. And I'm going to explain how to open a wallet and actually how to go on Coinbase and buy some coins. He said, because I have a vested interest in this, because I want that tipping point to happen sooner rather than later, where more people are involved in, that mass adoption is yet to come, but that he's trying to help do his part to push adoption in his own community. And I thought, he goes, it's only going to cost me a couple $100. And he goes, listen, if I get one person to buy Bitcoin and use a wallet, it's a win-win.
Yeah, that's his new community, right? He's built himself a community that way.
He's starting to build himself a community.
Yeah. And these are going to be extremely successful, these groups of people. But so what they're trying to do also is they're going to try and create one world government. And it's not going to work out the way they plan. The United States is going to split up. There's going to be like battles in the States. People are going to, like, you can't leave people locked in their homes for a year and a half without them losing their ever-loving minds, right? And just really taking up arms. And you're going to see groups of parts of the country splitting off. And I'm talking specifically the United States, but because, we're like a big umbrella of tribes, but all over the world, this is going to happen. You're going to see these movements where people are breaking off and saying, we don't want none of your stinking system. We don't like it. Right. And some will do better than others, but those that are using cryptocurrencies are going to really thrive. And this is a lot of what the changes are that are coming over this next year to 2 years, is these kinds of things. And really a lot of hinky business, a lot of manipulation, lies of elections, because they're trying to install their permanent people. Okay. I do see Trump being reinstated, elected, however you want to call it, but he's not finishing that term, because that doesn't serve their ultimate agenda. They're trying to get it to a point where they can get their permanent dictator in place.
So let's say potentially he's out by 2023.
He'll be out by then. I see maybe 2 years. Yeah. Okay.
So Marius, correct me if I'm wrong, but your algorithms have seen something in the future that is rather big as well.
Yeah, Bill, from a mathematical perspective and an algorithmic cycle perspective, if I look back at the American presidency, and remember, I was involved in, just a disclosure, I was involved in the Donald Trump campaign from an Australian perspective, and that's why I took so much heat on Twitter, as soon as people knew that I'm supporting Donald Trump, which I didn't really, we were just helping, the trolls were out, and they're still out to get me, so just full disclosure, we were helping before I really got into Bitcoin. So anyway, we saw in my algorithmic data that Donald Trump is going to win the election, but now what we see is that by the year 2023 is that something happens. We don't know what it is. Remember, we can see the event. The same as what we saw the event where Bitcoin starts dropping now. We saw it in September. We just don't know when. And we should have been a little bit more alert, and I kind of forgot about it. But we shouldn't forget about it. We should put it in a calendar and remember this. But by the year 2023, somewhere in 2023, I would say after the latter part of the year, something happens in the presidency. We don't know what it is. Now, we can speculate and say that Donald Trump gets shot because Kennedy got shot. What's the other guy? Lincoln got killed. And Donald Trump kind of is in the same category if you look at it mathematically on an algorithmic basis. He can die, he can get impeached. There's so many things. Who knows what these people will do, to get him out. But then we also see the Dow Jones, if it stays in this format, it goes up to about 30,000 Dow, and around about 2023, it goes to 60,000 Dow. And then there's a major change in the world, a major change. Now, with regard to Bitcoin, from now till that time, just order what we see as an algorithmic cycle, we see the reason I say that Bitcoin is going to go up to 89,000 and then to 350,000 is because I see in my data that people start trading Bitcoin in $100 segments. Like they would go and make a bid and buy Bitcoin at 20,500, not $20,512.25. It goes up to, I want to buy Bitcoin at 30,400, 30,600, 30,800. And every single day, during a day, you'll see $100 jumps. And then there's multiple jumps in one day, multiple of them, where Bitcoin just suddenly jumps up $1,000. And there's a few jumps where Bitcoin in one day goes up 4,000, just suddenly, out of nowhere, for no reason at all. It defies technical analysis. It just goes 4,000. Because people start they say, I missed the boat at buying Bitcoin at 10,000. Now it's 50,000. I'm going to bid 54,000. And the bid gets taken, so it jumps up 4,000. And then, guys, remember in 2017, probably the first one in the world that came out with this. And I said that I see Bitcoin dropping by 20,000 in one day. 20,000 in one day. There's one point where Bitcoin drops 60,000 in one day. Now that 20,000 is most likely when Bitcoin hits approximately, and I'm just making a guess here. We don't know. I can see the numbers, but I just don't know when. Closer to the time, we can identify it. But I would probably say, around about 45, 48,000, it drops by 20,000. But then it comes back very strong again. Exactly what we have now. Bitcoin dropped from 10,000 to 4,000. Okay, think about this now. It's not impossible to drop from 40,000 to 20,000. It seems big. So this is why I say, if I look at that data, Bill, that I believe that Bitcoin is going to go up. Right. But one caution that I want to give everybody here is stop focusing on where the high is. You can make insane money at these levels. Don't worry about the price of the US dollar for Bitcoin because you've got no control over it. The things that you've got no control over, move it out of your mind, forget about it. Focus on what you can control. You can control the profit that you make. Over to you, Bill.
Thank you, Marius. Yeah, interesting that you guys both see some event 2023 as related to the president. Yeah. So we'll see.
And remember, Bill, I never knew about Aura at that time in 2017 when we made that prediction.
Oh, I know, 100%.
Yeah, so, and this was way back in 2017. Mm-hmm. And I also see that Donald Trump wins the election. And look, guys, this is non-political. Please, if you're a Democrat or a Republican, don't worry about it. It's non-political. But we see that Donald Trump, well, we don't know if he wins or if they push him in or whatever, we don't know. But we just see that
somehow he gets back in office.
Somehow he gets back in office. Yeah, okay, over to you, Bill.
Aura, any comments?
Yeah, I have one thought that I wanted to add to that, which is, those price levels, they all sound realistic to me. And of course, Bitcoin has dropped 50%, right? It just dropped 50% last week. So it could do it at $200,000. But one thing I want to add to this that my report owners know, because it's in every report I put out. This was an article that I wrote on Steemit in 2017, which is that Bitcoin Cash will overtake Bitcoin eventually. Okay. And I have levels that I was shown that it's going to make on its way to overtaking Bitcoin. So if you want Bitcoin, a lot of Bitcoin, buy some Bitcoin Cash, but do it now. But it's, that's going to start happening somewhere between that like you're saying 80,000 to 300,000. That's about when the race is going to get really heated between those two coins.
And so, Marius, or from a timing standpoint, I know it's hard to predict timing.
Right.
You think 2021?
For which?
Well, Marius, I think we've discussed, you're looking at potentially 89,000 in 2021, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely, Bill. What happens now is that by the latter part of this year is when we call it we call it catapult 1, catapult 2, catapult number 3. Believe it or not, people don't understand this, but even with this drop, this is a catapult. How do you put a catapult in to propel it forward? Remember this, guys. You put a big rock in. Think about medieval. They put the rock in, they pull it back, they pull it back. And this is just a pullback. And then they hit the catapult. Remember catapult number 1, we predicted that spot on to the dollar, to the date. And then we said catapult number 2 is now in the works. And that started on 18 December 2019. Now the catapult, I don't know, the catapult missed missed the castle. But the catapult went up and then the catapult dropped. But that's the pullback. And then, so we have catapult number 2. Catapult number 2 is not the big one. The big one,
and we haven't left catapult 2 yet.
Catapult number 2 is not done yet.
Yeah.
And then catapult number 3 starts in the latter part of the year, and it goes up till the year 2021. And in 2021, probably, dates are just approximate, dates, you can't predict that anymore. I don't know, or maybe you can, but more or less, and I think people just need to have a bit of a broader idea of dates, because that's another thing that you are not in control of. Date and price. You're not in control of that. But let's say by the latter part of 2021, since by the end of this year, for 12 months, we just go up, up, up. That's a huge catapult. And this is how we see that, Bill. And Ora, just your question or your comment on Bitcoin Cash. Way back before we even knew you, I told my subscribers there's 3 or 4 or 5 coins. Well, 5 was Bitcoin, so there's 4 coins. The top one we said was Ethereum, but Bitcoin Cash is in there too. Now, we couldn't make a distinction between the 4, which one is the best, but any one of them is actually a really good one. And we also said that we see Bitcoin Cash going back to extreme high levels. But where Bitcoin Cash overtakes Bitcoin, I didn't know that, but it's something that this is why it's so valuable to spread your wings, guys. Don't just go to YouTube and listen to things. Do research, listen to Aura, listen to all these things, and let your soul take the information in, and you can analyze that data. This is why I love you, Aura. It's awesome.
Love you too. It's really great.
Love fest here.
Yeah, but it's great because it is difficult to find people who see it in a similar way, because a lot of what I'm seeing is very contrarian. And like you, I get, look, if you don't have trolls, you're not doing something right. So, like you, I get a lot of people like, that's crazy. I've had people come back and be like, you said this was going to happen. I thought you were nuts. And now it happened. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm willing to make myself look nuts because I just report what I get. I'm just a messenger. Right. So, and the same with you. So it is really nice to, and also you fill in some of the gaps, right? And I can tell you that I will get dates as we get closer. The thing with Bitcoin Cash is that it's hard to distinguish the two because of the fact that, technically Bitcoin Cash should have the right to call itself Bitcoin because it is closest to the vision of the white paper, right? So when that battle is happening, it's going to get really tricky, but I have levels. I just know levels that it's going to hit along the way, like, point whatever of a Bitcoin to, in back and forth as they're fighting it out. But it's going to be a slow fight. It's not going to happen like in 10 minutes. It'll take probably a year and a half to really fully, ramp up. But yeah, and yeah, that's it. Back to Bill.
Okay. Thank you. Well, guys, we've been chatting now for about an hour and 15 minutes, and it's 6:15. And would you guys like to go to some live questions and take some of the questions from the members that are that have joined us? Marius?
Sure.
Oh, he's got his
Yeah, absolutely.
Marius.
I think, did you want me to unmute everybody, or are you gonna?
So if you could, just go ahead and unmute everybody, and then for the members that are on the line, go ahead and feel free to ask a question.
Sorry, not to break in. I just wanted to say quickly before we go to the questions, I just want to give an offer to the group and allow Bill to put the links into the chat box so that people can find this stuff. Is that okay for me to do that?
Absolutely, Aura. Please put your information in there. Anybody that wants to get in touch with Aura, click on those links. You can get in touch with her there.
Okay, so
I'll drop those into the dialogue box. But just before we go to questions, I have one more question for each of you guys. Okay.
Okay.
Aura, if you could only hold one coin in your wallet, what would it be?
That's really tough. I mean, I would say Bitcoin Cash, but there is one other coin that's probably going to make even, especially in the closer term, that will make better gains, and that's Digibyte.
Okay. Marius, same question. If you could only hold one coin in your wallet, what would it be?
Bill, can you remember what coin I said will go up the most? Digibyte.
Yeah, Digibyte.
Yeah.
Aura, you are so scary.
So are you. But I just want to make one quick thing, which is the two things that I have for your members is I do have a free PDF, which is virus protection, and it's homeopathic, which works on the molecular level of your body. So it'll help keep you healthy, apart from the standard of taking a lot of vitamin C and vitamin D. That's a free thing. So Bill will drop that link into the chat box so you guys can just sign up and get that. And that will give you more updates about what I'm doing. And then the other thing is, if you want to subscribe to my report, Bill has a link for that, and you guys can get 20% off for the next 24 hours if you sign up. And that would be just use the code M20, M for Marius 20. So Bill will put those links in the description box. So you guys can take advantage of both of those things, either way. So that's all with that. Was there something else? Did Bill just ask me another question? I'm not sure.
No, what was your favorite coin?
Yeah, I think Digibyte is going to be the world's best coin.
I'm not going to disagree with you.
And let me just quickly finalize on that, just for new people or as people who listen to this. What we've always said is that you need to have 4 coins. Those 4 coins are Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, 5, XRP, Digibyte, and Litecoin. Now, what we do is, and then obviously you've got Bitcoin. So you keep on trading Bitcoin. When you make the profit out of Bitcoin, you move it into Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, Litecoin, or Digibyte, or XRP if you want. But long term, we see Litecoin not doing that well. Okay, so we actually get rid of Litecoin at some point. XRP, when XRP has its first move, we sell. And it will go up for 14 days astronomically. Then you sell. You get out of XRP, you never ever go back. And then we we keep Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, and Digibyte. I hope that makes sense.
That's very similar. I've been telling people that there's a point at which it's not safe to have XRP because it's getting locked down into the banking system somehow. So there will be a price level actually where you want to be out completely of of XRP completely. So, but I agree. And I didn't have the 14 days of upward movement. That's a good clue also. So, but yes, I agree with selling out of Ripple. You do want to get out of it.
Yeah, it's about 14 to 21 days max in that range, but you'll see it will just go up and up and up and never come back. And when you, and we always say to our members, Aura, we say, sell the spike, never buy the spike.
No.
Sell the spike. When you are up and you make that profit, take the profit. Don't wait.
That's right.
Bill, with regard to people on the call, I think I'm not going to unmute everybody. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of noises. If people can just raise their hand, and we'll take them from the top to the bottom, if that's okay. Thank you for that link as well, Aura.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely.
And I'll download the other one. So, guys, if you've got any questions, raise your hand. And there we go.
Yeah, what we mean with raise your hand, just go in on Zoom. Like Queen of Sheba, she just put her hand up. It's like a little blue hand. Not physically raise your hand, if that's okay.
Right. So she's got her hand up there. And
Okay,
then
Queen.
we've got, so Queen of Sheba's, go ahead.
Hi. Thank you, Aura. Thank you so much for coming on. And Marius, as always, fantastic to hear you both. What's going on now? I agree with you, Marius. I think the coronavirus is being overhyped and used as a cover for some major changes they're putting through. Now, do you think, Aura, this is the start of that global, the way they're closing businesses? This is unprecedented. The global shutdown of businesses and every freedom we've ever had. I get the feeling we will never be the same society again.
We won't. This is really the end of an old era.
Yeah.
When the virus was in the news, I was like, I better go out and eat in all the nicest restaurants while I still can. No, I mean, I really knew that it was not going to be available in the same way after that. And it's unfortunate. It doesn't mean we're never going to be able to eat at good restaurants again, but it is a big change to our whole entire way of life. And we are going to start rebuilding something brand new. We're going to see the best of people come out of this, the best in people. We're going to see some incredible inventions and innovations coming out. They're already starting. It's going to be really exciting as a renaissance in some ways, even though, there's the grief of the end of our old way of life as well.
I've always read that from the spiritual perspective, by 2032, the world will be a better spiritual place. And I think, the old has to die and break down before we can get to that. So is this it then, the breakdown, the breaking of everything we've ever known?
Yes, this is it. It's gone, actually. It's never, ever coming back. It doesn't mean that the breakdown happens overnight. It's a long, slow grind, and with sudden bursts of change and innovation and, stuff happening. So it's, there's nothing boring about being alive today.
But do you think what they've done is globally shut down all businesses? I mean, every single business. Do you think they will open again a bit or not? Or is this it? Is this a global clampdown?
They're going to try and keep everyone locked up for 18 months or longer. They're going to try and keep people in their homes in fear of this virus for over a year. Now, they do have like this official, remedy that they're working on, that there's studies in New York. It's really simple, actually. All you really need to do is get quinine, which is in tonic water, and it's quinine and a Z-Pak, which is an antibiotic, series of antibiotics. And you can buy over-the-counter Mexican antibiotics on Amazon right now still, and eBay. But those two things, theoretically, are supposed to kill the virus scientifically. I would rather use homeopathy. It's cheaper and more effective, and it doesn't kill your natural.
So, in terms of livelihoods, what are people going to do? What's going to happen there? I can't hear you.
Sorry, Aura, we just missed you there for a second.
We lost you.
Sorry, am I back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Universal income. They're going to give everyone a universal income. All these businesses that are allowed to stay in business are going to be given loans, which is, again, loan sharkery, right? It's so that they can control the businesses and own their lives and everything they do. And also, if you take the universal income, they're going to use information on you to control you and to, own you, basically. Yeah. So,
I think are they also actually destroying that middle layer of wealth, like people have buy-to-let properties or a chiropractic business or a small hotel? Are they just going to destroy that? To them, it's just collateral damage, isn't it? They don't care.
Yeah, of course, so that they can collapse more of the power into their hands, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to let people be in business if they allow them to be in business. That's what they want. The president just signed a law last week allowing, because of wartime, it's a wartime.
His Wartime Powers Act.
Yeah, so he can take over any business. The government can take over any business that exists in the country right now. They can just say, you're working for us now because we need your work to help us in our fight against COVID-19. So, I have one thing I wanted to tell you about COVID-19 that's really fascinating. This was sent to me by one of the patrons, and it's really an interesting thing. So COVID-19 is actually code. It's a number. And I'm going to read it's a Greek number. Let's see if I can find it. The Greek number is, oh my God, I'm not finding it. I will tell you what it means, and if I can find it while I'm looking. it means, it actually equates to the 606, the number 606, that's what it adds up to. And which is, if any of you are computer people out there, that is the reset command on a computer is 606, the 606 command. So they're telling us with COVID-19, it is literally the way they are resetting the system. It was a patented drug. It is a bioweapon. There are all kinds of weapons, Neptunian weapons being used against us right now, from microwaves from 5G to spores to viruses to, you know, other things that are like chemtrails, Neptunian things, you know, drugs, pharmaceuticals, Neptunian things that are very small particles, right? Very, very little. That's very Neptunian, and in the air and fog and stuff like that. It's confused and lying. So this is the reset. This is how they're doing the reset.
Just one more question, then I'll
Okay, just one sec. Shanta, I'm sorry. Hey, Marius, I don't have access to chat.
Yeah, Bill, I don't think I set up the chat in this specific one, so there is no chat.
Okay, so I was going to drop the link into chat. That's okay, no worries.
I forgot about that, yeah.
I'm sure everybody will be interested in this question as well. So, Aura, what they've started is a global clampdown and sucking the money from, you know, channeling into the fewer hands, the corporate hands. Will they allow us to profit from gold, silver, and cryptos? Do you think they'll try and grab that from the average Joe like us?
Well, if you have your hands on your gold and silver, that's yours. They can't take it. There are only certain coins they're going to be able to take, mostly the newer ones and mostly the ones that are minted by your own government, right? So having foreign coins is safer. Having coins that are collectible, technically collectible, is safer. So those coins, yeah, they may try and take that stuff, but I don't actually see that sort of gold, silver confiscation thing being very effective and successful because of the community thing that I'm seeing happen. Okay. And the fact that people will trade it back and forth with each other and they can't control that. But the other part of it is crypto. Yes, there will be a period of time. In fact, I just got this message this morning that there's going to be a period of time where they will shut down all the exchanges, probably last about 2 weeks when they shut down banks. So there's going to be like, people can't get in and out. And we did have a lot of strategy in my group where we all were setting up LLCs and we were working with John Singleton. So people have legal protection with LLC entities. So you have to have the right legal structure to protect yourself, to be able to hold on to your crypto. Of course, you can keep your wallets anonymous and they won't be able to get that from you, but it's good to have legal ways to get in and out of your crypto as well.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's just go through all those questions, Bill. We're going to ask one question from Jackie, one from Sabina, and then one from Tommy Slovak. So, Jackie, please go ahead.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, one question I had was that since there's a lot of hyperinflation going on right now, and I know Marius had mentioned about taking the profits in some coins and transitioning them to others. How can we use that profit into the dollar bill since it's going to be hyperinflated?
So this is we haven't even started hyperinflation yet. It's going to hit really hard. Right now we're in deflation, and hyperinflation is still probably a couple months out, but you're going to, the simple thing you can do is place your, this is complicated, and this is what we worked with John Singleton to solve for my it's not a quick answer.
It's not an easy answer.
You can put your money into stable coins and go in and out of Coinbase if you're a US citizen with your stable coins. So don't buy coins, cryptos on Coinbase. Just buy stable coins into Coinbase, then send your stable coins to your wallet and buy your coins there. And then when you want to take cash out, send your stable coins, your USDT or whatever, onto Coinbase, and then turn that stable coin into dollars and send that to your bank account or whatever currency you're in and send it to your bank account. That's one way you can do it without triggering a tax event for yourself, according to John Singleton. But
that's a good point. I just want to make one comment quickly there, Aura, what we've been teaching our people. number one, when you invest in cryptos, you don't put all your money in cryptos. You must have a certain percentage in silver, not necessarily gold.
Yes.
We see silver rising up to $982 an ounce mathematically. It must hit that.
I agree. I agree
You know?
100%. I don't even own any gold. I'm always telling people silver. Absolutely.
Exactly. Now, that is one way how you protect yourself against hyperinflation. Now, remember, when we say that Bitcoin is going to go to 89,000, you won't be, it's not the value that you will have today. With $89,000, you can buy a very nice SUV. But when it goes up to 89,000, you'll be able to buy a Ford Focus. So just remember that is hyperinflation.
Yeah, except that in the hyperinflation time, all those nice SUVs are also going to come way down in price because nobody wants anything with foreign parts because you can't get it worked on, right?
That's exactly it. Yeah.
All the price values are going to change. So it's really hard to assess based on those numbers. That's true. That's why you need silver. Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you. Next, Marius, we've got Sabina is up next.
Yep, Sabina is unmuted.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. A quick question on Bitcoin Cash. It's sitting at about 227 right now. At what point do you consider a good entry point?
Anything under 150. When Bitcoin drops, Bitcoin Cash will drop as much or more. If the thing with Bitcoin is if it drops and stays down for any length of time, a couple of days or whatever, all the alts bleed even more. So they may drop the same amount as Bitcoin at first, but over the next couple of days, if Bitcoin stays at a low level, they bleed out. And that's why Bitcoin pumps up in value a little bit. When it drops, it goes a sharp drop, then it pumps up because all the alts are throwing all their money into Bitcoin for protection. So then the alts will go down more and more. So if you wait like 2 days after Bitcoin's drop, if it hasn't gone up, that's usually when you get, it's just sort of like a good rule of thumb timing. If you don't have actual dollar targets on all these, that's kind of a good time to go pick up coins that you want.
Okay. And you both mentioned that you expect a drop in Bitcoin, which is going to be the leader in pricing next couple days.
I'm not hearing you.
And next couple of days, 24 to 48 hours, Marius mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I actually want to make a prediction and say probably here in the next 2 or 3 hours, we're going to have the drop. Because remember, what we're going to do now is we're going to get Bitcoin very close to 6,800, very close to that range. And that will be kind of like a top. If we do not break through 6,900, then it's going to drop literally hours from now, probably about 2-3 hours. But what I mean is the drop happens. Oh, okay. So if it doesn't break, I work in Bitfinex, so the prices are more or less, sometimes you get a $50 spread depending on the exchange you look. But on Bitfinex, if it doesn't break through 6,900, let's say 7,000. If we go above 7,000, it's going to go up. But as long as we don't break 7,000, it's going to come down. And it should come down. The drop should happen in about 2 hours. 2 hours, 3 hours, which we mean in the next 48 hours, it's going to drop severely up till Friday, about 8, 9 o'clock. That will be the low, the first low. And then there's a second low as well.
So, right, the best strategy is always to have money out so you can buy in on the lows and money ready to trade so you can sell out on the highs, right? So you're kind of covered on both sides, and then you buy back in when it's down again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Tommy?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. First, I just wanted to thank you, Bill, for arranging this webinar.
Oh, no worries.
And a very big thank you to both Aura and Marius for doing this. This is very meaningful to me. So valuable information. Anyways.
Thanks for being here. Yeah.
My question is to either of the two of you or both regarding Veritasium. And my question would be, when potentially would Veritasium start moving substantially?
Well, Aura has spoken quite extensively on this subject.
Yeah, if there's any more information.
Yeah, so I have 3 videos on Veritasium.
Yeah.
And 2 of them are public on YouTube. One of them was a Patreon video, and then I released it when there was more news about Veritasium, because I did predict that in January they were going to go after Veri, and they did. A lot of the time range of what
We can't hear.
right now.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
So, Aura, no, we couldn't hear anything you just said. I'm sorry.
Sorry, guys. Okay, so Veri is gonna. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so in the spring, so in the next couple of months, there's going to be some better news on Veri. I don't know that it's going to affect the prices. Just know it is a long-term beneficial coin to have. It's going to be a few years before Veri really starts to go where it's meant to go. But it is a phenomenal coin. You absolutely do want to have it. It's going to be used by the government. It's going to be a big part of the financial infrastructure that's being built out. So hold it. Just know you're going to hold it for a long time. Don't expect to be trading it soon.
And just to add to that, I think, Aura, you've said in your videos, crazy U.S. government will have to go back to Reggie for him to explain how to use the coin and the technology, because they couldn't figure it out. And so that's basically the reason they had to go steal the coin from him, the technology from him, because they couldn't figure it out. So they still can't figure it out. And they're going to have to go back to him at the end of the day anyway.
Yeah, there's no way they can figure it out. They stole it because it was competition for them, and then now they're going to want to use it, and they won't know how. And also, John Singleton was saying the same thing, that legally, he had some sort of legal explanation as to why they have to go back to him, and the SEC now. We, the people who have Veritasium, are creditors of the SEC, so we can go to them and say, we are your creditor, you owe us this functionality. There was a
fiduciary responsibility to
and there was
make this coin profitable.
And there was a petition online too against them. So, they're going to have to suck it up eventually about this coin.
Yeah. Yes, it's good, but it's not. It's a long-term hold.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Does Marius have any forecast on that coin on Veri?
Not at all, or we haven't done a lot of work in that space. All we have told people is just simply hold your Veritasium. We haven't done a lot of mathematical formulas on that. From way back we did, and we said that it's a great time, just hold it, don't get rid of it. And it should only consist a small percentage of your portfolio anyway. But think about this, if you've got $150, $400, $500 in that can easily turn into 20, 30, or 40,000. So it's worth it, just hold it. But if your portfolio is overly, let's say 80, 90%, then it's a problem.
I agree.
Yeah. And for those people, people on the call that remember Cliff High, Cliff High years ago called out Veritasium as this amazing coin, and even saw it at some point going to parity with Bitcoin.
That's right. He did say that, and I believe
he said that in a couple of reports. I think he's right too.
Yeah. There are other coins I don't like that he liked, but I like that one.
Great. So, Marius, we've got Chris, who's got a question.
Okay.
Marius.
Hello. Audrey, Bill, and Marius. Nice to see y'all on here tonight or this afternoon. My first question is from Marius, and then I have an astrology question for Aurora. Marius, why do you like Digibyte? What's your thing with Digibyte?
It's not that I like Digibyte. I only look at a perspective from a mathematical equation. If I take all the coins in the world, okay, we can't analyze all of them. Okay, and you have to be very, very careful by not using or by buying. I just want to make the statement here as well, guys. All these no-name brand coins could potentially very quickly disappear. We said so in 2017, and we said in 2018 as well. We said come year 2020, over 3,000 coins will just vanish. Boom,
that's right.
Gone. And your money will be gone. Okay, Digibyte is one of them that stays stable. people don't realize it's a very old crypto, very well known, very suppressed in price. But from a mathematical equation, you get to like a pinch point in mathematical equations, and then suddenly you just get a burst of price. It's one of the coins that shows us a staggering gain of over 40,000%. As a matter of fact, about 43 to 47,000%, even as high as 56,000%. Now you go and work that out. $15,000 will turn into $1 million overnight and more. So it's worth it to take a chance. I mean, guys, literally, I'm saying this. If you take 15, not 50,000, 15,000, and buy now on the next low and just hold it, you have the potential, without giving financial advice, I'm just saying what we see mathematically, to make that staggering gain. And it's not a lot of money really to just put in part of your portfolio, depending on how much you trade. I know some people trade 1,000, some people 1 million, but do what you can. Well, I shouldn't really say that. I don't want to give anybody financial advice. I'm just saying what we see mathematical equation, Chris. So we would like to hear from Aura what you see then.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with you completely on Digibyte. It's you know, it's like the best coin, and I think that even Michelle Whitedove calls it her favorite coin. So I mean, this is commonly, and you know, it's been in my report since I put it out in like 2017. The first report, my favorite 5 coins, Digibyte is on that list. So is Veritasium, and so, you know, I agree with all the blue chips that you want to hold, and Digibyte is ultimately going to be the blue chip of all blue chips. And that is exactly why I love Digibyte, is because of the stability of its value. It's like your true blue friend of crypto, because it's better than a stable coin, right? Because at certain points when the dollar is crashing in value, you certainly would rather have your money in Digibyte.
All right, thank you, Aura. And my last question for you, as far as astrology goes. You mentioned Michelle Whitedove, Sylvia Brown, and all those psychics. And I think that you have psychic ability and astrology.
Yeah.
Can you tell me kind of, I don't understand how the Mars transitioning across the sun will make a difference to what goes on in our lives. Can you kind of explain those real quick?
It's hard to explain that, because it's just basically, it's as above, so below, right? As within, so without. So there are certain mathematical, it is math, actually, similar to what, you know, what Marius is talking to you guys about. It is a mathematical algorithm, because the planets make angles to each other, right? And they're all 30-degree angles. There's oppositions, which is 180 degrees, oppositional, squares. Those are the hard angles, which square is 90 degrees. These are hard angles, and these create problems and challenges. But then they make positive aspects too, trines, sextiles, these aspects, and quincunx, which is another 30-degree angle. It's 150 degrees. So these create positive energies, and they just work. I mean, it is like the chessboard, the controllers, it's just the spiritual forces. It's the way God influences us on earth. You know, we know that the moon controls our tides. It works in a similar way, except that the moon controls the water, and the various different planets control different aspects of what we're experiencing. So Mars is action, right? It doesn't have anything to do with the financial world, except as aftermath, but it doesn't actually create financial impacts. I don't look at it when I'm looking at planets for Bitcoin to see what's going to happen to Bitcoin. If I see a bad Mars aspect, sometimes I see, oh, you're not going to be able to get into exchanges because of this. But there are certain planets that have financial impact and certain planets that don't, and they just do. It's just the way it works. I hope that answers you.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we've got Tony.
Tony. Tony Merrifield, right?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So Marius, you said that silver would go to 982. When do you think that would occur?
Well, it's actually already happening. You know, from now up till the year 2021, going into 21, even up till 2023. There's a whole bunch of things that has to happen going into that area. You know, the thing is, when we know that, let's say, silver is on a low. Now, remember, I think Aura previously said about $11, and she's right, it actually went down to 11. Don't be surprised in this next drop now, for the next day or two, that silver goes a little bit lower. I believe that this could become the world's lowest price ever in silver. It could touch $9. But when Bitcoin hits a low, that's a great entry point. You hold, you buy and you hold, and you simply ride it up. What you will see is that silver will jump to $20. It'll jump to $40, and then you know it's game over. It's going to go.
Right.
Think about this now, guys. There's one product in the world that is very scarce. It's silver. Right now with coronavirus, people building hospitals all around the world. And remember this, actually, I recall somebody sent me this snippet and I said, guys, right now, this was about September last year. I said there's about 3,000 hospitals being built all around the world. Crazy. We said that. Why did they do it? Because they knew coronavirus was going to come. It's the most hospitals ever that were in the process of being built, and they all got finished here in December, and they're still building them. Now, these hospitals, what do they require? They require silver for surgical equipment. Coronavirus or virus or bacteria doesn't grow on silver. And guys, the health industry is going to get extremely expensive. Remember this, the baby boomers are aging. 1 billion people are going to die in the next 10 to 15 years, in that range. And that is going to put pressure on hospitals where they need silver. Guess what? Silver is used in all sorts of applications. It's in computers, in your iPhone, smartphone, solar power. And then the world will realize, China, that they can't get silver.
So you think that silver could dip to $9 even this week?
Yes, whatever the low is now, let's say on this Friday, coming next week as well, the following week, it will bounce around there. That's going to be the low in my opinion. It could go $9. If it's $9, it will be unheard of. Because to go from 11 to 10 is difficult. To go from 10 to 9 is very difficult for silver, but it can happen, okay? Because remember what's going to happen, guys. In this next drop now, they have to drop cryptos. I'll tell you why. If cryptos now suddenly spike above 7,000 and then go to 8,000 right now, what are people going to do in Wall Street? They're going to go like, the stock market is not doing anything. The world stock markets are not doing anything. Cryptos are going up. The powers that be don't want the people or investors in stocks to move their money out of stocks into Bitcoin. That's why they are going to drop Bitcoin. This is what I'm thinking. So they'll put pressure on gold as well, and silver will drop as well. Remember in September, I came out and I said that silver is going to drop, gold's going to drop, and people were stunned. They said, but how can that happen when the world stock markets drop? It's because they force it to drop. Otherwise, people take their money out of the world stock markets, move it into silver and gold just skyrockets. But I would like to hear what Aura says there as well.
You just said it. You just said absolutely everything I would have said about silver and how it's used for everything and how valuable it is, and also everything I have been saying about why the metals are dropping and why these markets do drop and how they have to keep them down, crypto down, because exactly that. There would be a stampede like you would not believe of money out of the stock markets into crypto if crypto was taking off, and they have to keep that from happening while they continue to control the transition. So it's exactly how I see it. Precisely. I didn't necessarily think we would bounce down to 9, but I mean, it's totally possible. And, you know, gold can also come down, right? It can come down more. So, you know, and people can short that. But it is risky because of the bouncing that happens. But when we do start to take off in silver can go up 30% in a day, right? It can go up 50% in a day. They're going to shut those markets out. And then what's going to happen is there will be the prices on the markets, right? And then there'll be the prices at the coin shop where you can go and you can get a lot more than that for silver. I get your price of like in the 900s for silver, but I will say in terms of value of silver long term, I'm not going to say this is within a year or even 2 years. I do believe silver will reach a point where an ounce of silver will buy you an acre of land. I think we're going to get to that point with silver. It will get so valuable, especially over long term.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
Okay, the next question is Robert.
Tony, does that answer your questions?
This is fantastic. I really enjoyed Marius's comment about the bond markets, and also what Aura had also indicated too. And I'm trying to set up some trades to try to cash in on that. And the TLT stock ticker has been a life-changing reward ratio on that. So some people I know have made 100 grand in the past 2 weeks off of trading TLT. My question to you is, this week, do you believe that, and the bond markets, the prices have been increasing this week, it kind of plateaued today. Do you have any short-term prediction of what you think is going to happen this week?
Is that for me? Because honestly, I don't actually follow the bond market. So I don't even know what price it is right now or where it's going to go. So I haven't even looked at it in that way. I just know that it is the crushing of the system is the bond market. So, I mean, is it going to go up now? If it goes up, what would the percentage be? Maybe it might go up another 5-10% before it would come down again. But I don't have, this is not one that I have a lot of information on. I'm sorry. I defer to Marius on this.
Marius has got the chart up.
I've just shared my screen there. Can you hear me, Bill?
Yeah.
Yep, I can see it.
Yeah. Okay, the bond market, basically what has happened is that it created this head and shoulders here. You can see there on the left-hand side there. And then we came out and said the predicted low is about 0.032. So it hit exactly that point there. Expected now to go up, and you actually see that it's actually going up. And then this will actually go up in conjunction with, it will basically go up as markets go up now and as the world stock markets actually went up. But then look at that drop. It's going to drop back again to a little bit higher than that. And this here on the bottom is where the US, in our opinion, remember this comes from mathematical equations and then algorithmic analysis. Here it shows that the government at that point there comes and buys or do something with bond market, maybe open it to the public, or they themselves push a lot of money in, and then bang, it skyrockets. And it doesn't, so remember here in September, in about April, May, it hovers around here on the bottom and then it takes off. So that's how we see the bond market. Expect a bit of a drop here. But the bond market doesn't really get destroyed. A lot of people think it is, but we see it being saved. They have to save it. For Donald Trump to win the election or to be put in power, they have to save the bond market. Otherwise, he will never, people won't vote for him. If the bond market crashes, if the bond market crashes, everything crashes.
Yeah, but that's exactly right. In terms of the timing of markets reinflating will be before Trump is elected. That's what I'm seeing as well. So September, October into November is when the stock market starts to reinflate because elections. That's it. It really is. It's really that simple.
Okay, guys, we're going to have 3 more questions. One from Robert, one from Sabina, and one from TG. That will be the last questions, if that's okay, Bill.
So I think you just answered Robert's question.
Okay, so let's go to Sabina.
Yeah, hi. Digibyte. What's the best exchange to purchase it from? Because I don't see it in Coinbase.
It's not on Coinbase. You can shapeshift it on Exodus. You can buy it on
Binance.
Binance. Yeah, Binance and Shapeshifter, who I get it from.
Okay.
You can always find where a coin is able to be bought by going to Coin Market Cap and looking into the coin, and in the tabs down below it shows you there's
the markets
a lot of information, and in that there's a list of where you can buy it and sell it.
Okay, same thing with Veritasium.
That's going to be a little harder.
That's harder. You have to get that on Fork Delta, and you really need to know what you're doing to make a trade on Fork Delta. So you need to watch some YouTube videos on how to do it.
Okay, what's that place again?
Fork Delta.
Fork Delta.
Fork Delta.
I don't know if it's
unless you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Aura.
Well, I don't know.
There's one other option.
Is forkdelta.com or .io? One of those. I'm not sure.
Okay.
If you're looking to buy a block of $2,000 or more in Veritasium, you can. The guys at Caleb and Brown will buy it for you. Caleb and Brown.
Yeah.
Caleb and
They're a brokerage. They're a cryptocurrency brokerage house in Melbourne, Australia.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Shall we go to TG?
TG, yeah.
Hi guys. Would just like to say a big thanks to Bill, to Aurora, to Marius. Thank you so much for this webinar. Really appreciate it. And I also would like to say I hope everybody around the world and everyone stays healthy, stays out of, well, just as best as you can be through all these troubling times. It's not easy. And to stay positive and work as communities. I've got a few questions. They're not all crypto related. Some of it's esoteric for Aurora. Marius will probably know this through past conversations going back a year ago or more than that. But I'll start with the first one. Not long ago in the conversation, we talked about the bank shutting down. Is this just a cash issue, physical cash? Or is it completely, i.e. no online transactions?
It's going to be a limit. Yeah, that's a good question. They're going to limit the flow of capital, right? So they're going to limit how much money you can spend, and you'll be able to do your sort of basic expenses. Like I think certain companies are going to be exempted, like your rent, your mortgages, your power, utilities. Those they're going to allow you to have your money to use, but they're only going to let you get a couple $100s of cash or something like that, right? And there will be some banks that will collapse. Okay, that's coming up. It might take a couple months for us to get one of these U.S. bank collapses, but that's going to coincide with when Ripple starts to take off.
Right. Okay. Thanks for that one. Damn it. The other question. I've got a few questions to be honest. And all right. Okay. Is what this is esoteric? Mm-hmm. Very, very esoteric. This one. And Marius knows about this anyway, but do you see through communities any human community movement resistance linked to ancient technology that helps the world out?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And when I say ancient technology, I'm talking about ancient technology being found that will push things to Antarctica that could help things against the problems on the planet. Yes. It's very esoterical, so
well,
I'm
there's
just interested about that.
Yeah, there's a lot to that. There's a lot to that. There are things that people can make today if they were to put their mind to it, like the Baghdad battery, which is basically a battery that they had in Egypt. They could create battery power. There's a lot of technology. So people have a lot of time on their hands. They're going to start putting things together and they're going to start trying things out. We're going to start to get a lot of that knowledge. We're also going to get, so there's people's discoveries. There's channeled information. A lot of like the wisdom that we have has come through people who don't call themselves channels, but actually channel solutions. I mean, like, some of the information that some of our scientists have gotten has come from esoteric sources. But there will be stuff that's going to be released that comes from specifically things like Antarctica and things like that, because once these government employees aren't getting paid, they're going to leak it. They're going to sell it. They're going to sell it out. They're going to go start a company, or they're going to start something up to get that knowledge out. So yes, that is going to happen. There's going to be, I've seen this forever. Oh my God, decades. These new type of healing center where we are using energy and frequency and like color, vibration, sound for with these like sheets of glass that are where you put light through them to help heal people's bodies and with various rays of the color spectrum. Yeah. So that's just one thing, but there's tons of stuff like this that's coming out, and we're going to see it really start to explode over the next couple of years. And that's part of what the government's not going to be able to strangle back into the box. To be too many people for them to strangle it all back into the box. That's really what's going to end up happening. It's just a battle.
Thanks for that one. Right, this is a UK question because I'm in the UK. A couple of us are here. Shams are here. Okay, so we talked about communities. You mentioned communities and things in America and stuff like that. I think we're all agreed Europe's probably going to collapse and some other stuff's going to go on there. I really am. I'm not sure about how the UK is going to pan out. I'm in the UK. We've got cases popping up everywhere at the moment. I just, the people here are very uncommunal, very, and there's a lot of denial. There's a lot of absolute 60 years of programming into people's minds. How have you got any insight into how good or bad things are going to get in the UK?
Well, okay. So I lived in London when I was a kid. My mom's British. I love London. You know, I have great affection for Britain, and I understand what you're saying. You're going to have people. So this is the separating of the wheat from the chaff. So people who can awaken to reality and deal with it are going to be doing better. You're going to see more of those groups of people moving off to the side, like into the country, maybe working with people in Ireland and some of these countries, you know, which is a lot more, and Scotland even, which is a lot more bootstrap kind of mentality. So you're going to see people who are willing to roll their sleeves up and do the work, really building up some good, sustainable environments for people where you can be part of. But it's going to happen a little more. It's going to happen slowly. I mean, it's like there's slowly, and then suddenly there's pops of big change, and you're going to have one of your big banks is going to collapse there in London, just like we're going to have here. And I'm hearing Barclays. So I think it might be Barclays that collapsed, which is, you know, the biggest bank in the world, I think, or one of the, like the figurehead of all banking, right? So it's sort of like a symbolic end of the era, end of the system when Barclays goes down. And you're going to see some crazy things happen with the royal family. That's for sure.
I think that's all. I mean, for me, I've already seen through that. That's why Harry's gone and all the rest of it.
It'll be very shocking for people, and there'll be a period of time where a lot of people are just going to be like walking around like they're stunned, like they just literally can't believe. It's like, you know, ripping the bandages off, like they've had their eyes covered and like all this like reality, and you're gonna have people like, what, you know, they're just going to be overload. But by that time, you know, those who are more aware will have already kind of gone off and started doing their own thing. So you're going to have opportunities there. You're not going to be like just stuck with an asleep population. Plus, there are ways to heal yourself from the virus, and it's mostly going to attack people who have compromised immune systems and who are operating on a very low frequency anyway. So, you know, it's less of a scare than what the government is doing, actually. Even though it does overwhelm.
That is really great information. Bill, would you mind if we close the meeting down now?
Absolutely.
Just for the sake of me just cutting the video out. I am still willing to stay online here, but we just need to close it down if there's any more questions to answer. I can't stay longer than 15 minutes, but we cut it down now, then I'll stop the recording.
So let's go ahead and stop the recording. And I think, Marius, we only had 2 more people who, well, now we have 3. But we've got Kelly, Tommy, and Kathy who have questions. And if we could limit it at that, guys, if we could, you know, unfortunately, we've got 15 minutes. So we've got 3 calls that will, 3 more questions that we'll take, but we have to limit it at that. Marius, go ahead and shut the recording off. That's
okay, I just want to say, go ahead, Aura.
Quickly, can you just drop the subscription link for people so that they can get that free
I can't.
PDF? Oh, you can't?
We don't have chat set up?
No, Aura, what I will do,
send it out.
Send me the link. Send me the link, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to put it in on the video. Plus, I will put it in on the YouTube video. Those same links, Aura. So I'll put it in there that people can get it. So, look, Bill, thank you for organizing this. Thank you very much, Aura, for coming online. I really hope that this is a really good relationship that we can start building forward. It's important that we all work together. And I really love it that you're so open and honest, and your information is really valuable. I really appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm really, really grateful to have been here. It was really great. It's nice to have this kind of quality of discussion. I'm really, really happy to be here. So thank you so much.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
The community.
Yeah.
Okay.